For every evolution we love, there's another that drives every single one of us absolutely insane. And we're starting with the most annoying one of them all, the firecracker. With her insane range and even longer projectile range, the firecracker can snipe your troops and buildings from halfway across the arena. Cards with long range are already irritating, but firecracker takes that irritation and turns it into a personality trait. And that's before we even talk about her recoil. Now, it's not as bad as it used to be, thank God. Her current recoil is only one tile, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who has failed at landing spells on her. But believe it or not, this is the nerfed version. When she was first released, her recoil was a full 2 tiles. That extra tile created interactions so stupidly in her favor that it barely felt real. And I'm being serious, she could completely counter Bowler without taking a single hit. She would just keep bouncing back like Indiana Jones dodging a giant boulder. But you know, that's just the boulder, so nothing too crazy, right? Well, she could even fully defend a Mega Knight and P.E.K.K.A. on her own. Yep, she could just recoil out of their attack range too. But somehow, despite all of that, whenever I play her, she becomes useless. Suddenly she forgets how to shoot, walk, live, breathe, just standing there like she got hit by a 2016 free spell. And clearly it's not just me. I'm sure you've seen the many comments under all the videos where the firecracker is included. But all this frustration, all this nonsense is nothing compared to what happens when you evolve her. Because the evolved firecracker, she turns from annoying to obnoxious. First off, every spark she fires used to stack its damage. If 3 sparks hit your princess tower, you didn't take damage just once. No, you took that damage 3 times. She was basically a shotgun sniper with infinite range. But oh, ARCTO, why didn't people just use arrows? Yeah, at least the normal firecracker respects something. That evolved version at launch respected absolutely nothing. The go-to counter was just useless against her. Luckily, this is no longer the case, her damage doesn't stack anymore, and she does die to arrows. Regardless of these nerfs, she's still seen as one of the most hated evolutions. This is mainly due to the popular Hog Earthquake decks, which she resides in. You put down a Hog Rider, and whatever your opponent uses to counter your Hog, your evil firecracker will just blast on and chip away at the tower. And when I say chip, you gotta take that lightly, because her damage output is absolutely nuts. And then there's the part that truly breaks me. I keep seeing this in 2v2. My brilliant teammate drops her at the bridge, does absolutely nothing, and before I can even react, both King Towers are activated. We're instantly down bad because someone thought firecracker bridge spam was an actual strategy. And trust me, if I weren't sick right now, I'd probably be yelling about this. But let's quickly switch to a more loved evolution. Skeletons have always been one of the most quietly powerful cards in Clash Royale. For just 1 elixir, you get a tiny trio that can distract a prince, melt a hog rider, stall a giant, or simply cycle you back to your win condition. They're the definition of efficient. But when Clash Royale first launched in January of 2016, skeletons actually spawned in a group of 4, not just 3. And despite having an extra brother, their usage rate in top ladder was only about 4%. Not because they were bad, but because players simply hadn't realized how absurdly valuable they were. As strategy evolved, well, so did the skeletons. Their usage exploded to 50% in 2016, instantly becoming one of the strongest and most flexible cards in the game. But in February 2017, they got hit with a big nerf. Their count dropped from 4 down to 3. And that might sound small, but their usage immediately collapsed to 7%. Just a few weeks later, Supercell gave the skeleton brother back. The result, their usage skyrocketed yet again. 53%, then an insane 72.5% by June. Of course, no card survives numbers like that for long, and skeletons reverted back to 3. And this time, their missing brother took a very long vacation. Then everything changed on June 18th, 2023. With the introduction of evolutions, skeletons became one of the first cards to receive one. Evolved skeletons added a completely new mechanic, spawning an extra skeleton with every hit. It was exciting, it was kinda weird, and it had the potential to redefine cycle decks entirely. Except at launch, it didn't. They needed 3 cycles to activate, they were capped at 6 total, and despite going back to 4 skeletons per spawn, a log or zap still deleted them instantly. They ended up at just 1.8% usage in top ladder. That changed in August of 2023 when they got the buffs they desperately needed. Activation reduced to 2 cycles, cap increased to 8, and a faster hit speed. suddenly people realized how insane they could be. By 2024, they were still sitting at 31.4% usage, and even after multiple nerfs, they remained one of the most loved evolutions in the game. And honestly, that love makes perfect sense. Evolved skeletons are powerful, but they're also fair. They let you pull off crazy outplays, last-second defenses that feel impossible, clutch trades that flip an entire match, and moments where perfect timing can completely shut down a massive push. They bail you out when you're behind, but only if you play them well. And the best part, they are still countered by the simplest cards in the game. Zap, Log, Barbarian Barrel, just about any small spell can deal with them instantly. They're strong without being toxic, rewarding without being oppressive. That balance is exactly why players love them. But on January 7th, 2025, the evolved skeletons count dropped from 4 to 3 once again. This nerf would finally be the balancing adjustment they needed. However, in October of 2025, the skeletons received another nerf. All skeletons would have 0.1 seconds slower hit speed, and despite this, the Evo skeletons are still doing fine and remain one of the most loved Evos. And if history has taught us anything, it's that Larry always finds a way back to relevance. Now let's talk about a card that is already one of the most controversial cards without its Evo. But before we do, we gotta talk about you not being subscribed. I mean, come on. Seriously though, I would really appreciate it. All right, back to the video. The most controversial card might just be the Mega Knight. This guy is the ultimate mid-ladder menace. If you've ever played anywhere between 4,000 and 9,000 trophies, you already know his entire playbook by heart. Got a Hog Rider coming your way? Mega Knight. A giant with a musketeer behind it? Mega Knight. Literally anything moving towards your tower? Mega Knight. The reason this card is so universally hated is simple. Mega Knight has the lowest skill ceiling of any card in the entire game. It doesn't require good placement, it doesn't require good timing, it doesn't even really require a strategy. It's the Clash Royale equivalent of a panic button. Don't know what to do? You're losing in a push? Misplayed your elixir? Just slam Mega Knight down and watch him magically clean up the entire mess for you. And the worst part? He's good at doing that. His spawn damage wipes out half the troops in the game. His splash hits even more. His massive health pool means you can turn a defensive panic drop into a full counter push with basically zero thought. He's simple, predictable, and incredibly frustrating to deal with, especially when the opponent uses him like a disposable band-aid for every mistake they make. What makes mid-ladder Mega Knight even more infuriating is that he doesn't travel alone. He always shows up with a wizard or a witch or some other random support troop. And somehow, despite these players breaking every known rule of card placement and elixir management, the moment Mega Knight lands on your side of the arena, you feel the panic. You know you have to respond. You know you're about to take a beating. He's just that kind of card. Now, hear me out. Mega Knight is annoying, but at least he used to be manageable. Skillful placement, good spacing, or a well-timed mini-tank could handle him pretty well. And believe it or not, when he first launched in 2017, he was actually worse than he is today. So yes, he's always been frustrating, but not truly meta-breaking. But all of that changed on September 14th, 2024. That's when Supercell introduced the Mega Knight evolution, and watching that trailer felt like my world was crumbling. I genuinely could not believe what I was seeing. It was like the devs held a meeting and said, all right, what is the most hated card? Okay, cool. Now, let's make that one evolve. The Mega Knight took everything annoying about the original and turned it up to 11. Just like the original, the evolution spawns a second Mega Knight with identical base stats, but the real nightmare is his new mechanic. Every single time he attacks, the evolved Mega Knight performs an uppercut, launching the targeted troop 4 tiles backwards directly toward your closest crown tower, which sounds kind of funny until you actually play against it. A Hog Rider trying to slip through, uppercut, sent flying back to the river. A Royal Giant at your bridge, uppercut repositioned into a useless angle. That Golem lumbering toward your tower, uppercut, shoved back over and over. The normal Mega Knight was already really annoying, but at least your troops could deal some damage. With the evolved version, it was just free defense for them. And the problem didn't end with his strength. No, it got worse. To celebrate his release, Supercell let players earn 1 free evolution shard per day, meaning the entire ladder was suddenly flooded with evolved Mega Knights. You didn't just face him once in a while, you faced him every other match, sometimes back to back to back to back. dark times. Every deck turned into MK plus whatever random other cards players happen to like. As of writing this script, the Evolved Mega Knight is still ridiculously strong in mid-ladder. And the sad part, none of this was really surprising. Mega Knight was already one of the most hated and complained about cards in Clash Royale history. Giving him an evolution was basically handing the mid-ladder population a nuke. And god, this card just fuels me with spite. It doesn't matter how well you play, if your opponent has Evolved Mega Knight ready, your best built pushes can vanish instantly. Maybe I should just switch to Lava Hound. But enough about that. Let's talk about this cute little guy. When the Ice Spirit arrived on July of 2016, it seemed almost laughably tiny. A single 1 elixir spirit that could hop onto a troop or building and freeze it for 2 seconds. You know, sounded cute, maybe even insignificant. But this little frosty flyer would go on to reshape Clash Royale's tempo, cycling, and defensive landscape in ways no one expected. Before the Ice Spirit, cheap cards were scarce. Skeletons were the only true 1 elixir option, serving as pioneers of cycle decks, kiting, and small distractions. The Fire Spirits, released 2 months earlier, offered splash damage but were fragile, unpredictable, and cost 2 elixir for a trio. The Ice Spirit was different, cheap, reliable, and consistent. Unlike Fire Spirits, it could tank 2 Princess Tower shots and even survive a zap, delivering its freeze without fail. Suddenly, a 1 elixir card could stop a push, support a Hog Rider, or counter multiple small units while enabling a fast cycle. This reliability is exactly why players fell in love with Ice Spirit. It doesn't feel unfair or random, it rewards smart placement, good timing, and strategic thinking. Landed perfectly, and you can freeze a mini P.E.K.K.A., reset a charging unit, or stall a golem long enough to buy crucial seconds for your win condition. Even small plays with Ice Spirit feel satisfying, turning micro-level decisions into meaningful advantages. Its utility, precision, and low cost made it not just useful, but genuinely enjoyable to use. The Ice Spirit's evolution, introduced in late 2023, amplified all of this. The evolved Ice Spirit had a slightly larger splash radius, half a tile bigger, and a new mechanic. After hitting an enemy, it would deal the same stun and damage a second time after 3 seconds, this time for 1.1 seconds. A later adjustment reduced the requirement from 3 cycles down to 2, making it feel like a near spell for just 1 elixir. Suddenly, 1 tiny troop could deliver double disruption and freeze across multiple phases of a push. It rewarded players for timing and precision, turning clever plays into satisfying high-value outcomes. Players love the evolved Ice Spirit because it's reliable, fair, and skill-rewarding. Unlike overwhelming evolutions that punish mistakes automatically, this little spirit gives you the chance to outplay your opponent. By 2024, the Ice Spirit had cemented itself as the ultimate 1 elixir utility card. It became a staple in nearly every cycle-heavy deck, valued not just for freezing but also precise chip damage and tempo control. Even with a freeze duration nerf in 2025, the evolved Ice Spirit remained beloved, a tool for clever plays, a safe investment for low-cost cycles, and a card that consistently feels rewarding to use. In short, players love Ice Spirit because it's subtle, versatile, and skill-based. It doesn't dominate by raw power, it dominates by giving players the chance to outplay, time, and control the pace of the game. Tiny, clever, and deceptively impactful, the Ice Spirit evolution is a perfect example of a card that's both fun to play and satisfying to master. Alright, the Electro Dragon has always been a card that divides the community. Before its evolution, it was somewhat underwhelming. Its chain attack was strong and visually impressive, but its impact was limited by slow attack speed and positioning requirements. It saw occasional play in e-golem decks or alongside a regular golem, but it rarely felt like a defining force in the meta. Even at release, it was useful but not oppressive. That all changed with the evolved Electro Dragon, released in the October 2024 update. Early testing even gave it infinite stun, allowing it to chain attacks endlessly and lock down units, but this mechanic was quickly removed after some community feedback. Once live, the evolution turned the Electro Dragon into a far more formidable support troop. Its chain attacks became stronger, its lane control more punishing, and poor positioning could now be brutally punished. Suddenly, the support unit could delete entire pushes if left unchecked. Subsequent balance updates refined its power. October 2024 fixed chaining into invisible troops. December added a death sound and minor bug fixes. January of 2025 reduced damage by 33% after the first 3 chains, and March adjusted hit points slightly while tweaking interactions with Rune Giant. After these adjustments, the evolved Electro Dragon remained a potent and frustrating presence. In top ladder play, nearly every Electro Dragon you see is the evolved version, because the original just simply can't compete. So why do players hate this card so much? The evolved Electro Dragon can single-handedly erase pushes. Its chain attack stuns and damages multiple troops, often removing support units before your main win condition even reaches the tower. Mini P.E.K.K.A., Musketeer, Wizard, anything fragile can vanish in its path. Against it, cheap spells like Zap are ineffective, leaving Rocket or Lightning as the only reliable answers. Miss the timing and your push collapses instantly. It also punishes mistakes relentlessly. One misplaced Hog Rider or poorly positioned Golem can completely be stopped by a single Electro Dragon. Its presence forces constant attention, careful positioning, and sometimes even cycle adjustments just to avoid being punished. Unlike many other evolutions, it changes how an entire deck must function, making it not just annoying but kind of intimidating. Some decks highlight its strength perfectly. For example, pairing Electro Dragon with P.E.K.K.A. and Freeze in this Lumberloon deck allows you to overcommit on attack and then get a huge positive elixir trade on defense. One misstep and a single evolved Electro Dragon can completely wipe out a carefully built push, leaving the opponent reeling. Even after months of balance tweaks, the evolved Electro Dragon continues to be a polarizing card. It deletes pushes, punishes errors, and dominates lanes in a way that feels almost unfair if you don't have the right answer. Alright, on to the Wizard. So the Wizard has always been a solid support card in Clash Royale's early days. Back in the beta, it could handle minions, baby dragon, and even stop groups of barbarians with ease, making it a reliable choice for dealing with swarms. But after those early days, it pretty much fell off. For nearly 8 years, the Wizard struggled to find a role. Alongside cards like the Barbarian Hut, it was consistently one of the worst cards in the game, suffering from poor survivability and lackluster value. Players simply didn't pick it, and it became a forgotten staple in the shadow of more versatile, cost-efficient options. I bet there's no way you saw this coming, but that all changed with the introduction of evolutions. On May 6th, 2024, the Evolved Wizard entered the game, and suddenly this long-neglected card became relevant again. The evolution fundamentally strengthened the Wizard's defensive and offensive capabilities. Now when his shield is broken, it releases a ring of fire that deals significant damage while pushing back enemies. Originally an insane 4-tile pushback, this made the Evolved Wizard not just a strong counter to swarms, but also a tool for controlling the battlefield in ways the old Wizard just never could. The Evolved Wizard was followed by a series of tweaks throughout 2024 and 2025. In May of 2024, its shield hit points were increased by 18%, improving survivability. By July, the shield was slightly nerfed, and in August, a trade-off was introduced. Shield hit points decreased slightly, but overall health increased by nearly 5%, giving it better durability in extended battles. October saw the shield's death pushback reduced from 4 tiles to 3, slightly lowering its crowd control potential. Even in December of 2024, a small sound effect was added for some extra flair when the shield broke. In 2025, minor adjustments continued. Health and shield were slightly buffed in March, and shield death damage was fine-tuned. By June, the post-shield explosion damage increased by 22%, making it even more threatening against clusters of troops. These updates ensured the Evolved Wizard remained relevant without breaking balance. This evolution addressed the Wizard's biggest weaknesses. Previously vulnerable to Fireball and Poison, it could now trade favorably with these spells thanks to the Shield and Ring of Fire. Its area damage and pushback allowed it to disrupt enemy pushes and control space in a way the old Wizard simply couldn't. Suddenly, a card that had languished in obscurity for nearly a decade became competitive, proving that evolutions weren't just cosmetic. They could revive underperforming cards and make them viable and fun again. That said, the Wizard still sees little to no play in most decks, especially at top ladder. It's not a universally dominant card, its niche remains narrow, and it can be annoying to face when played well, particularly against swarms or tightly packed troops. Yet, that's exactly why its evolution was necessary. The Evolved Wizard gives players a reason to consider a card that would otherwise be ignored. Alright, this next one is hated for a bit of a different reason. The Evolved Goblin Drill is actually disliked because it's bad. Let me explain. So, the Goblin Drill has always been one of Clash Royale's most chaotic and unpredictable cards. From the moment it first hit the game, it was an absolute nightmare for opponents. Unlike most ground units, there was no spawn delay. The moment the drill reached your tower, a goblin would jump out and immediately start stabbing, dealing instant damage. On top of that, the drill burrowed 25% faster than normal, making it a bit more difficult to react in time. And if that wasn't enough, it spawned 3 more goblins upon destruction. Defending against it without a log or a well-timed spell was nearly impossible. Its origins trace back to December of 2018 when retired developer Seth revealed scrapped card concepts at a conference in Finland. Among ideas like the Ancient Minion and Prison Goblin, now known as the Goblin Cage, a prototype resembling the drill, a Trojan horse filled with goblins, stood out. Early gameplay footage shows mechanics nearly identical to the final card, including spawning units on the opponent's side after destruction. However, it wouldn't reach players until 2021. June of 2021 marked the drill's official release in a draft challenge. Players quickly realized it was one of the most broken win conditions ever introduced. Its faster burrow, immediate goblin spawn, and triple death spawn made it terrifyingly difficult to stop. Popular YouTubers experimented with drill decks, pairing it with firecracker or golem to some devastating effects. Constant pressure ensured chips on towers no matter how well opponents defended. Bowler emerged as the top counter, able to handle both the drill and its spawned goblins while supporting counter pushes. By 2022, the drill entered a new era of wild interactions. A mirror bug allowed players to stack 2 drills on top of each other, blindsiding opponents with double drill pressure. In 2v2 matches, teammates could stack drills in the same spot, creating insane synergy. The drill also paired exceptionally well with the electro giant, using careful inferno tower placement and drill pulls to neutralize heavy pushes. Even after nerfs, slower burrow, increased first spawn delay, reduced death spawns, skilled players adapted, keeping drill decks alive. The evolution era of 2023 initially promised to elevate the drill further. Evo Firecracker, Evo Knight, and Little Prince offered insane synergy, turning drill decks into formidable lane pressure machines. When the Goblin drill received its own evolution in 2024, expectations were pretty high. Early tests revealed it was overpowered. Secondary drills spawned multiple goblins, creating massive pressure. Developers nerfed these mechanics prior, limiting extra drills to a single goblin, and later removed the knockback and damage when resurfacing. Today, the evolved Goblin drill is widely considered underwhelming. Without the chaos and pressure that made the original drill so threatening, it fails to capture the flexibility, unpredictability, and raw offensive power that players loved. Even with buffs to spawn timing and lifetime, most players prefer the unevolved drill, which is pretty much better than the Evo one and still leaves 2 Evo spots for other cards. Kinda weird how people hate the Evo just for being bad. From its prototype days in 2018 to the evolution in 2024, the Goblin drill has remained a uniquely disruptive card. Its history is full of broken mechanics, ingenious combos, and meta-defining moments, serving as a perfect example of how Clash Royale's evolving design can turn even the simplest goblin into a tactical nightmare. Skeleton Army returned in October of 2025 with a powerful twist. Now a skeleton general spawns alongside that usual 15 skeletons, completely changing how the swarm can be used. When the skeleton's hit points drop to 0, they don't die. They become invisible, untargetable, and invincible, continuing to attack until the skeleton general falls. This creates a pretty wild, unpredictable dynamic, forcing opponents to redirect damage and rethink their usual counters. The Skeleton General comes with a shield matching normal skeleton hit points, adding an extra layer of survivability and tactical depth. This combo allows for high-pressure plays, particularly in logbait decks, where the invisible skeletons keep chip damage rolling and create tricky situations for opponents. Timing and prediction of the Skeleton General are key, rewarding skillful play without feeling overpowered. What makes this evolution so loved is simple. Players adore skeletons. There's just something inherently fun about swarming an opponent with dozens of little Larrys, and this version takes that joy to a whole new level. The gimmicky mechanics, invisible skeletons, and a protectable general add flair and creativity, making it exciting both to play and to face. And it's not just a tool, it's a characterful, playful card that embodies why people fell in love with skeletons in the first place. I feel like people always loved the Skeleton Army, but it was getting pretty bad in comparison to all the other swarmies like Goblin Gang and Guards. But the Evo gave it a reason to be used again, and people found their love for the card along with it. In short, the evolved Skeleton Army mixes strategy, chaos, and pure fun, giving one of Clash Royale's most iconic swarms a truly memorable evolution. But if you think that's crazy, you haven't seen anything yet. If you want to dive into the wildest hidden details in Clash Royale, this next video, 333 Clash Royale things you didn't know existed, is just perfect for you. I'll see you there.